CQ calling all radio amateurs and listeners. This is Golf Bravo 2 Romeo Sierra, the news broadcasting service of the Radio Society of Great Britain. This broadcast comes to you from amateur radio station Golf 4 Juliet Bravo Delta in Mappishall, Bedfordshire. Welcome and thanks for joining us. It's Sunday the 30th of June and here is the GB2RS news broadcast, which was prepared for you by the RSGB and is made available to all radio amateurs and listeners. You can also find this news bulletin on the RSGB website at rsgb.org, along with links to groups and organisations that may be mentioned in this broadcast. This week's news headlines: the IARU HF Championship is coming up soon. Learn about the QMX Plus transceiver at the next RSGB Tonight at 8 webinar. And the Examinations Standards Committee has published its annual report. We'll have more on those items shortly, but first the IARU HF Championship contest will be held between the 13th and 14th of July. And there is a great opportunity for you to get involved in a fun new way this year. During the contest, headquarters stations represent their countries, and the RSGB's call sign, Golf Romeo 2 Hotel Quebec, will be on the air through a network of about a dozen stations around the UK and islands. This year, the RSGB Contest Committee has introduced a new challenge to encourage individual stations to work GR2HQ on each band mode slot. You'll be able to submit your log, including contacts with GR2HQ, to the RSGB contest robot for the GR2HQ challenge. If you include your club or group name when you submit your log, each contact with GR2HQ will count towards an aggregate score for your club or team. There'll be two results tables, one for individuals and one for clubs, so your contacts can contribute to both. So why not encourage your club members to take part in this special challenge, whether they're regular contesters or not? By contacting the G2 or the GR2 HQ station, you'll also help the RSGB's position in the contest. And last year, the RSGB came third in the world, and the Society would love to improve on that result. And you can read more about it in the June Radcom feature on the GR2 HQ challenge. And you can also see the rules on the RSGB website now at the rsgb.org/go/GR2HQ. That's Golf Romeo 2 Hotel Quebec. The next the next RSGB Tonight at 8 webinar is on Monday the 8th of July. And during that webinar, Hans Summers, G0UPL from QRP Labs, will give a presentation on the QMX Plus multi-mode 160 to 6 meter transceiver kit. And this is a great chance for you to find out more and to ask questions live on the night. You can watch on the RSGB YouTube channel or special BATC channel. And to find out more about the webinar, go to the RSGB website at rsgb.org/webinars. The Examinations Standards Committee has published its annual report covering 2023. The report shows that in 2023 there were fewer candidates across all licence levels, but the number of people taking exams so far in 2024 has increased significantly. Another item in the report relates to the preparations that are being made to release the bank of questions for the full licence exam. The ESC chair, that's Tony Kent, G8PBH, says that it has long been recognised that a review of the question bank, particularly for the full level exam, is well overdue, and that has been delayed by things such as the need to revise the syllabus for EMF and the new licence changes. Reviewing the question bank is the next priority of the ESC, and the Exams and Syllabus Review Group will begin on the 1st of September when Syllabus 1.6 is up and running. The ESC and ESRG believe that it's better that this review is conducted before the bank is published, as this should reduce the workload on the community and the exams team in making and responding to questions that may have been withdrawn. They hope to release the questions in January 2025, and to see the full ESC report, go to rsgb.org/ESC. That's Echo Sierra Charlie. And once you're there, click on the Minutes, Papers and Reports tab, which you'll find on the right-hand side. Now, the team from High Impact, based on the Wirral, is planning its first high-altitude balloon launch of 2024. Working with the staff and pupils from Monk's Copper Hall Academy near Crewe, they will launch at 11 a.m. on Wednesday the 3rd of July from their usual location in Kilcuid near Welshpool in Wales. They'll run an HAB Duino and encourage all amateurs and shortwave listeners to upload telemetry to SondHub. The frequency will be 434.650 MHz upper sideband, transmitting 50 baud RTTY. That's using 425 Hz shift and using 7N1 data format. The call sign is monks_HAB. I'll spell that phonetically. It's Mike Oscar November Kilo Sierra _ Hotel Alpha Bravo. And updates will appear on High Impact's Facebook page and on X. Their X tag is at High Impact Consult. Now, this year the Churches and Chapels on the Air event takes place on Saturday the 14th of September, and if you plan to put your church or chapel on the air, please email John, G3XYF. His email address is jhresdell, I'll spell that, that's Juliet Hotel, Whiskey Romeo, Echo Sierra, Delta Echo Lima Lima, at gmail.com, and he'll add you to the list of participants. And just a reminder now, remember that today, the 30th, is Alexanderson Day. The unique Alexanderson alternator, call sign Sierra Alpha Quebec, from Sweden, has 2 transmissions planned on 17.2 kHz using Morse code. At 0830 UTC, the alternator will start up, and at 0900 UTC, the first transmission will take place. Then a second transmission is scheduled for 1200 UTC. You can read more about the event and the historic transmitter at alexander.n for November .Sierra Echo. That's alexander.n.se. And now we have details of rallies and events. Dunstable Downs Radio Club's annual rally takes place today, the 30th, at Stockwood Park in Luton. As always, there'll be plenty of plots available for £10 each. Car parking will be £4 per vehicle for visitors, and the usual entrance for traders and visitors remains the same. However, the road that runs along part of Newlands Road on the south side of the car park is closed, so please do plan your route accordingly. And for more information, you can visit the event website, which is ddrcbootsale.org. That's Delta Delta Romeo Charlie bootsale.org. Burton-on-Trent Amateur Radio Club Mini Rally and Barbecue will take place on Saturday the 6th of July. The venue is the Barley Mow Public House. That's in Burton-on-Trent, and the postcode is Delta Echo 5 9 Alpha Papa. Ample car parking is available and the admission is free. And in addition to all the usual stalls, there'll be a live demonstration of the club's remote access station. And for more information, you can either phone Barry on 01283 540 570, or you can see the club's Facebook page. Next we have news of the Barford Radio Rally, which is next Sunday the 7th, and that's being held at Barford Village Hall and Green in Barford, Norwich, and the postcode is November Romeo 9 4 Alpha Bravo. Doors will open at 9 a.m. and the event features trade stands, car boot sales, bring and buy, a charity raffle, repeater routes, and catering and free car parking. Entry is £2.50 per person, and under 16s can get in for free. You can read more about the event at Norfolk Amateur Radio, that's all one word, .org, or you can email David, Golf 7 Uniform Romeo Papa. His email address is radio@Delta Charlie Papa, Mike India Charlie, Romeo Oscar.com. That's dcpmicro.com. The Cornish Radio Amateur Club Rally takes place next Sunday the 7th. That's at Penair School in Truro, and the postcode is Tango Romeo 1 Tango November. The doors open at 10:30 a.m. and admission is £3. There'll be traders, bring and buy stall, clubs or club stalls, car parking and catering on site. And if you need more information, contact Ken, Golf 0 Foxtrot India Charlie. His phone number is 01209 821073. And now we have news of special events. Durham and District Amateur Radio Society is one of the bonus stations in the popular 13 Colonies special event. The special call sign, Golf Bravo 13 Charlie Oscar Lima, was issued for the occasion and will be active from 1300 UTC on the 1st of July to 0400 UTC on the 8th of July. The main focus of the event will be on the HF bands, but the station will also work on VHF and UHF and via satellite for contacts using SSB, Morse code, FM and various digital modes. If you'd like to visit the club or want further information about Golf Bravo 13 Charlie Oscar Lima, please contact Ray, Golf 0 Victor Lima Foxtrot. His number is 07904 196 283, or you can email Golf 0 Victor Lima Foxtrot at yahoo.co.uk. Special call sign Golf X-Ray 4 Lima Mike Romeo will be operated by the British Railways Amateur Radio Society from the 5th to the 14th of July, and that's to commemorate the first amateur tests on a moving railway train in 1924. Operators will concentrate on the 40-metre band depending on conditions, and you can QSL via the Bureau. Now it's time for the DX news. Sylvia, Oscar Echo 5 Yankee November, is active as Oscar Echo 20 Sierra Oscar Tango Alpha until the 31st of October, marking the 20th anniversary of Austria joining the Summits on the Air programme. And for details of a certificate that's available, go to their QRZ.com page. The call sign is Oscar Echo 20 Sierra Oscar Tango Alpha. A member of the 69th Russian Antarctic Expedition, Igor, Romeo Quebec 8 Kilo, will be stationed at Progress Station in Antarctica until the end of April 2025. In his spare time, Igor is active as Romeo India 1 Alpha November Echo and uses FT8 on the HF bands regularly. And now let's see which contests are on in the coming week. Well, today, the 30th, it's the UK Microwave Group 5.7 and 10 GHz contest, which runs from 0600 to 1800 UTC. Using all modes on the 5.7 and 10 GHz bands, the exchange is signal report, serial number and locator. Tomorrow the 1st, it's the 80-metre Club Championship, and that runs from 1900 to 2030 UTC. Using Morse code on the 80-metre band, the exchange is signal report and serial number. Then on Tuesday the 2nd, it's the 144 MHz FM activity contest, and that runs from 1800 to 1855 UTC. This contest uses FM on the 2-metre band, and the exchange is signal report, serial number and locator. Also on Tuesday the 2nd, it's the 144 MHz UK activity contest, and that runs from 1900 to 2130 UTC. It uses all modes on the 2-metre band, and the exchange is signal report, serial number and locator. Next on Wednesday the 3rd, it's the 144 MHz FT8 activity 4-hour contest, running from 1700 to 2100 UTC. This contest uses FT8 only on the 2 meter band, and the exchange is report and 4-character locator. On the same day, Wednesday the 3rd, it's the 144 MHz FT8 activity 2-hour contest, and that runs from 1900 to 2100 UTC. Also using FT8 on the 2 meter band, the exchange is report and 4-character locator, and as usual, stations who enter the 4-hour contest may also enter the 2-hour contest. Now the big one for VHF, it's VHF National Field Day, which starts at 1400 UTC on Saturday the 6th of July and ends at 1400 UTC on Sunday the 7th of July. Using all modes on the VHF bands, the exchange is signal report, serial number and locator. On Sunday the 7th, it's the third 144 MHz backpackers contest, and that runs from 1100 to 1500 UTC. Using all modes on the 2 meter band, the exchange is signal report, serial number and locator. Well, now let's hear what the HF bands have in store with this week's radio propagation report, which was compiled by G0KYA, G3YLA and G4BAO on Thursday the 27th. We had another lucky week with quite a high solar flux index, low KP index, few solar flares and no coronal mass ejections, and you couldn't really ask for better. But is that all about to change? With 9 active solar regions on the Sun's surface and the return of old region 3664, which has now been renamed 3723, it would be a brave person to suggest otherwise. So let's take a closer look at the Sun. Of the 9 active regions that are visible, 4 are classed as stable, 1 is classed as declining, and 4 are classed as growing. With a solar flux index of 181, there's plenty of ultraviolet radiation around. However, we are now in the summer doldrums, so maximum usable frequencies, or MUFs, are lower than they are in the autumn and winter. In other words, we're not going to see a return to reliable worldwide DX conditions on the higher bands until mid to late September. There's now only a 5% chance of a strong X-class solar flare, although a bright coronal mass ejection was seen for a second day off the Sun's west limb. This was directed away from Earth, so it shouldn't really affect us. NOAA predicts that the KP index could rise. That's due to coronal mass ejection effects, and that's from an event that left the Sun on the 24th of June. You can expect a KP index of 4 or 5 with a reduced maximum usable frequency until the geomagnetic disruption lessens. It also predicts that the solar flux index will remain around 190, hopefully with a low KP index after the ionosphere settles. Maximum usable frequencies over a 3,000 kilometre path are generally between 18 and 23 MHz during daylight and around 18 MHz at night, and this means that for the next month or so we may expect 14 MHz to remain open through the night. And now we'll take a look at the VHF and UP propagation news, and this was put together by G3YLA and G4BAO. This week finishes with unsettled weather and cooler air after a brief taste of summer, particularly in the south of Britain. There will be lows drifting in from the Atlantic next week, as well as the occasional passing weather front. Although there was some tropo last week during the brief period of high pressure, this is unlikely to be repeated in the coming week. We have a random chance of rain scatter, but you will need one of the many online weather radar displays to track the scatter regions. Next week also looks windier, so you may have to keep one hand on the rotator. Meteor scatter is again down to random events, and that means an early start in the shack to capture the higher rates which occur in the early mornings. The solar conditions keep trying to creep into VHF with a higher KP index and thoughts of radio aurora, but it's probably not a strong shout. Looking at sporadic E, there's still broad sporadic E peak, which normally extends into the first week of September, so you still have plenty of time. It won't always be there, but in a test analysis of the Dorbs data in June 2022, 84% of the days reached 10-metre openings, with 18% up to 6 metres and around 10% opening on 4 metres or above. And this makes it worth using the 10-metre band to find the region of activity and then check the higher frequency beacons in case it strengthens to bring in the higher bands. Moon declination goes positive this coming weekend, so moon peak elevation and window lengths will increase. Perigee was on Thursday the 27th, so EME path losses are increasing. 144 MHz sky noise is low at the start of next week and moderate later. And from Friday afternoon on the 5th of July to midday on Saturday, the moon and sun are very close together in the sky, and that means high noise levels for all but the narrowest beam width antennas. And that's all from the propagation team this week. This is Golf Bravo 2 Romeo Sierra, the news broadcasting service of the Radio Society of Great Britain, and this transmission is being brought to you by Graham, Golf 4 Juliet Bravo Delta, located in Meppershall, Bedfordshire. And now we move across to the local news, and please note that details of all RSGB affiliated clubs and societies can be found on the RSGB website, and that includes email addresses and website links where we know them. And as usual, we start off with news for the Midlands. And first we have news of meetings for the Bolsover Amateur Radio Society. Their meetings take place every other Tuesday starting at 8 p.m. and are held at the Bainbridge Hall in Bolsover. And the postcode is Sierra 446 Papa X-ray. The next meeting will take place this Tuesday, the 2nd of July, and you can find more information and reminders for meetings on the Society's Facebook page, which is at Bolsover ARS. That's all one word, at Bolsover ARS, and at is the at symbol. You can contact Vin, Golf 4 Kilo Sierra Kilo Sierra Yankee, for more information. His phone number is 01246 827 135. The Bromsgrove District Amateur Radio Club meets every Friday from 8 p.m. and members also have a regular coffee morning on Wednesdays in the club shack starting at 10:30 a.m. Then on Monday and Wednesday evenings there are nets which are held on 145.375 MHz starting at 7:30 p.m. Burton Amateur Radio Club has open nets around 145.575 MHz at 10 a.m. on Sundays and 8 p.m. on Thursdays. On Monday there'll be slow Morse code exercises on 14.055 MHz from 11 a.m. and the club meets every Wednesday from 7:30 p.m. Thursdays are the club's net night and the frequency is 145.575 MHz starting at 8 p.m. Central Radio Amateur Circle has a net on 145.575 MHz from 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday and from 12 p.m. on Saturday, and the group will have a Google meeting at 7 p.m. on Wednesday. Cheltenham Amateur Radio Association has daily nets on 145.400 MHz at 8:10 a.m. and for more information you can visit the club's website, which is golf5bravokilo.uk. On Friday, members of Coventry Amateur Radio Society will meet at the So Common, and that's for a portable operating session. Dudley and District Amateur Radio Society meets every Tuesday from 6 to 10 p.m. at Wrighton Mill on 59 Vale Street, Upper Gornal in Dudley, and the postcode is Delta Yankee 3 X-Ray Foxtrot. Gloucester Amateur Radio and Electronic Society has an informal net every day on 145.475 MHz FM starting at 3:30 p.m. Members also hold an informal meeting on Mondays, and on Wednesdays there's a net from 7:30 p.m. on 145.475 MHz FM. On Thursday there's another net from 7:30 p.m. on 145.475 FM. That then moves to 80 meters SSB a little later on. Then on Friday there's a net on 432.220 MHz SSB starting at 7:30 p.m. And on Saturday it's the Society's Open Day, and that runs from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. On Tuesday, Hinckley Amateur Radio and Electronic Society will take part in the 144 MHz UK activity contest, and members will also be active during the VHF National Field Day on Saturday and Sunday. Kettering and District Amateur Radio Society has a breakfast meeting from 10 a.m. on Sundays, and on Tuesday there's a club meeting from 7 p.m. Then on Thursday they have a net which is on 145.300 MHz starting at 7 p.m. On Monday, Leicester Radio Society will meet at its HQ and via Zoom from 7:30 p.m. and on Thursday there's a club meeting from 10 a.m. On Tuesday, Lincoln Shortwave Club will meet at the Lincolnshire Aviation Centre in East Kirkby. Members will also meet at the BSA Village Hall from 7:30 p.m. on Wednesday and from 7:30 a.m. on Saturday. Then on Thursday they have a net via Golf Bravo 3 Lima Sierra, or if that's busy they'll meet on 145.350 MHz. For more information you can visit the club's website, which is golf5foxtrotzulu.co.uk. On Tuesday, Loughborough and District Amateur Radio Club meet for a valve, transistor and component testing session. And for more information you can visit the club's website, which is radioclub.org.uk. On Wednesday, Malvern Hills Radio Amateurs Club have their net on 145.350 MHz FM starting at 8 p.m. On Wednesday, Midland Amateur Radio Society will run training classes as well as holding an open meeting. On Monday, Nunsfield House Amateur Radio Group will have a shack night and club net on 145.300 MHz from 8 p.m. Then on Fridays, members will meet for a video evening. On Monday, RAF Waddington Amateur Radio Club has a net on 145.325 MHz from 7:30 p.m. and on Wednesday they have Morse code practice at 8 p.m. on 144.085 MHz, and the club will meet at the Pi Wipe from 8 p.m. on Friday. RAF Waddington Amateur Radio Club will operate from Lincolnshire Wolds Railway on Sunday the 7th of July, commemorating the 6ZZ centenary. And on the 5th of July 1924, amateur radio station 6ZZ was established on a train travelling from King's Cross to Newcastle upon Tyne, and that was to test whether two-way communication could be established between an amateur radio station on a moving train and amateur radio stations at fixed locations. On that theme, members of the British Railways Amateur Radio Society will celebrate the centenary of this successful test by operating Golf X-Ray 4 Lima Mike Romeo between the 5th and 14th of July inclusive. Club members plan to be operating using the call sign Golf X-Ray 4 Lima Mike Romeo on the HF and 2 metre bands, and the station will be located at the Ludborough station end of the railway, and visitors will be most welcome. Rugby Amateur Transmitting Society has weekday nets at 8:30 a.m. on 144.275 MHz upper sideband. They also have training and practice Morse code nets which take place on Monday and Thursday at 4:30 p.m. on 144.275 MHz, starting off using USB and then moving across to Morse code. The Society will also be meeting from 8 p.m. on Tuesday and from 2 p.m. on Saturday at the Borton Lee 12th Rugby Scouts Hut. Then on Friday they have a net from 8 p.m. on 1913 kHz. Members of Salop Amateur Radio Society will meet for a club and shack night on Thursday, and listen out for the Society's members who will be active during the VHF National Field Day on Saturday and Sunday. For more information you can visit Salop Radio Society, that's all one word, .org. On Thursdays, Solihull Amateur Radio Society has a net around 145.450 MHz from 8 p.m. South Birmingham Radio Society have their open club nights on Fridays from 7:30 p.m, and visitors are also welcome to attend the Society's Tuesday coffee mornings, which start at 10:30 a.m. On Tuesday, South Derbyshire and Ashby Wolds Amateur Radio Group will have an open net on 144.225 MHz SSB. That starts at 7 p.m. Members will also have a club evening from 7 p.m. on Wednesday, and then on Friday they have a net on 70.425 MHz from 7 p.m. On Sundays, Stafford and Districts Amateur Radio Society have a net on 145.375 MHz from 8 p.m, and on Wednesday members meet at the Wildwood Community Centre from 8 p.m. Stourbridge and District Amateur Radio Society meet at the Norton Snooker Club from 8 p.m. on Mondays. Also on Monday, Stratford-upon-Avon and District Radio Society have their net on 145.275 MHz from 8 p.m, and you can get more information on the club's activities at their website, which is Stratford Radio Society, all one word, .org.uk. On Monday, Sutton Coldfield Amateur Radio Society have their open net around 145.250 MHz from 7:30 p.m. On Wednesday, members of Telford and District Amateur Radio Society will meet to prepare for VHF National Field Day, and the Society will be active on both Saturday and Sunday during the event. On Monday, Welland Valley Amateur Radio Society have their net on 145.275 MHz FM, that's from 7 p.m. Wolverhampton Amateur Radio Society meet every Wednesday from 7:30 p.m. at the Wednesfield and Woodend British Legion. Then on Sundays they have a net around 145.350 MHz from 8 p.m, and you can get more information on the club's activities at their website, which is wolverhamptonars, all one word, .co.uk, or on social media, look up @wolvesars, all one word. On Sundays, Withell Radio Club has its net on 145.225 MHz from 7 p.m, and on Tuesday members will meet for a club night from 7:30 p.m. Well, now we have the news for the South East and East Anglia. On Wednesday, Bishop Stortford Amateur Radio Society has its net from 8 p.m. on 145.5625 MHz, and everyone's welcome to join in. Bracknell Amateur Radio Club have their net via the Golf Bravo 3 Bravo November repeater from 5 p.m. on Sundays, and on Wednesday they have a net on 145.375 MHz FM starting at 8 p.m. On Tuesday from 8 p.m, Braintree and District Amateur Radio Society have an open net on 145.375 MHz FM starting at 8 p.m. On Wednesday, Bromley and District Amateur Radio Society has its net starting on 145.500 MHz from 9 p.m, and for more information on the club you can visit their website, which is Bravo Delta Alpha Romeo Sierra .wordpress.com. Burnham Beeches Radio Club has its net from 10:30 a.m. on Sundays, starting on 145.500 MHz, before changing frequency to 145.275 MHz. Bury St Edmunds Amateur Radio Society meets at the Rougham Tower Museum on the third Wednesday of each month. It's a small but very active club, and there are club nets every day of the week except Sunday. You can find details on the club's website, which is Bravo Sierra Echo Alpha Romeo Sierra.co.uk, and the club's general chat frequencies are 144.7375 MHz FM and 433.400 MHz FM. On Sundays, Chelmsford Amateur Radio Society has a Morse code net on 144.060 MHz. That starts at 8 p.m. Then on Monday, they have a Morse code class from 7:30 p.m. around 3542 kHz, and that's then followed at 8:15 p.m. by Golf Bravo 2 Charlie Whiskey slow Morse transmissions on 3555 kHz. Then on Thursday there'll be Morse code classes via Skype starting at 7 p.m. On Tuesday, the Chelsea Pensioners Radio Club have their net on 145.375 MHz from 2 p.m. On Tuesday, Colchester Radio Amateurs Club has a net on 433.400 MHz from 7 p.m. and on 1.920 MHz lower sideband from 8 p.m. On Wednesday, they have an open net around 145.350 MHz from 7 p.m. and the Thursday net is on 3.685 MHz from 7 p.m. Then on Friday they have an open DX net, that's on 14.125 MHz with assistance on 145.350 MHz starting at 2:30 p.m. On Sundays, Coulsdon Amateur Transmitting Society has nets on 145.400 MHz from 11 a.m. and on 3.700 MHz from 5 p.m. On Wednesday, they have a net around 70.425 MHz from 9 p.m. Crawley Amateur Radio Club will meet from 11 a.m. on Sunday, 8 p.m. on Wednesday and 2 p.m. on Friday. The club also meets at the Hut 18, that's on Tilgate Drive in Crawley, and the postcode is Romeo Hotel 105 Hotel Whiskey. And for more information you can contact Stuart, G4JBD. His phone number is 0772 006 8493. Cray Valley Radio Society's 2 metre and 4 metre FM nets take place on 145.350 MHz on Sundays at 10 a.m. and on 70.425 MHz on Fridays at 8 p.m. They also have a top band SSB/AM net, which is held on the first Monday of each month around 1905 MHz at 8 p.m. On Wednesdays, Crystal Palace Radio and Electronics Club have their net on 145.525 MHz from 8 p.m. and on Saturdays the club has a net on 51.550 MHz FM from 8 p.m. On Sundays, Darenth Valley Radio Society have their net on 145.475 MHz at 8 a.m. Dorking and District Radio Society has a net each day from Monday to Saturday on 144.775 MHz FM starting at 10 a.m. Essex Ham's nets are on Monday via Golf Bravo 3 Delta Alpha starting at 8 p.m. with chat room and audio feed at essexham.net. On Tuesday, Fareham and District Amateur Radio Club has a net on 145.475 MHz FM from 7 p.m. and then Thursday sees a net on 1.967 MHz from 7 p.m. You can visit fareham-darc.co.uk for more information. Listen out for members of the Farnborough and District Radio Society who will be active for VHF National Field Day on Saturday and Sunday. And for more information visit the club's website, which is farnboroughradio, all one word, .org.uk. On Sundays, Felixstowe and District Amateur Radio Society have a net on 145.400 MHz from 10 a.m. Members will meet for a direction finding event from 6:30 p.m. on Monday, and on Wednesday they have a net via Golf Bravo 3 India Hotel starting at 7:30 p.m. On Thursday, Fort Purbrook Amateur Radio Club have their open net via Golf Bravo 3 Charlie Whiskey starting at 7:30 p.m. On Tuesday, Harlow and District Amateur Radio Society will have a technical evening, and on Wednesday they have their net on 145.425 MHz from 7:30 p.m. Then on Friday the Society will meet from 8 p.m. and visitors are welcome to attend. Hastings Electronics and Radio Club holds a daily net on the Golf Bravo 3 Echo Sierra repeater at 10 a.m. They also have a Morse code net on Monday nights at 8 p.m. on 144.575 MHz, and the Morse code net is aimed at anyone new to Morse code or who wishes to brush up on their Morse skills. Non-members are welcome, and the net is followed by general conversation. On Wednesdays, usually at 1 p.m, members meet up at various locations in the area for an afternoon of portable radio on the air on both HF and VHF using SSB, Morse code and FM, and non-members are welcome to visit. The details do vary each week, so it's a good idea to visit hastings-electronics-radio-club.com on the Wednesday mornings, and there you can view up-to-date information about the location and time of the next meeting. On Sundays, Horndean District Amateur Radio Club has a Morse code net at 9 a.m. around 1950 kHz, and then they move to SSB at around 9:30 a.m. There's also an 8 p.m. net on 433.450 MHz, and on Monday there'll be a net around 1950 kHz from 7:30 p.m. The net then moves to 145.375 MHz on Wednesday from 7:30 p.m, and on Friday members will hold a club meeting. On Thursday, Horsham Amateur Radio Club will meet for a barbecue from 7:30 p.m. On Sundays, the Isle of Wight Radio Society has a net via Golf Bravo 7 Papa Oscar and Golf Bravo 7 Mike Tango from 8 p.m. The Society also has a net from Monday to Friday via GB2RS from 6:15 a.m. And on Tuesday, the Society takes part in the Bramble Net. That's also via GB2RS starting at 7:30 p.m. Then on Thursday, there's another net via GB2RS, followed by a Zoom meeting from 8 p.m. And on Friday, members meet at Haylands Farm in Ryde, and foundation and intermediate licence training is also available at those meetings. Loughton and Epping Forest Amateur Radio Society has a net on Wednesday from 8 p.m. on Brandmeister DMR Talk Group 23511. Then on Thursday, there's a net from 8 p.m. on 144.725 MHz FM. And on Friday, members will meet via Zoom from 8 p.m. Lowestoft District and Pye Amateur Radio Club has its net on Sundays on 433.575 MHz. That's from 8 p.m. Then on Tuesday, they have a net also at 8 p.m. on 145.475 MHz. And the club meets on Thursday evenings from 7:30 p.m. The final net of the week is on Friday at 8 p.m. on 51.490 MHz. The Martello Tower Group has a net night every Monday evening at 8 p.m. via GB3CL. Then on Sundays, the group has a net via GB3CE from 8 p.m. Medway Amateur Receiving and Transmitting Society nets take place each weekday from 9:30 a.m. on 144.650 MHz. On Friday, Mid Sussex Amateur Radio Society will hold a direction finding event, and members will meet from 7:15 p.m. at the Cyprus Road car park. The postcode is Romeo Hotel 158 Delta X-Ray. Norfolk Amateur Radio Club has a net via Golf Bravo 3 November Bravo every Monday from 7:30 p.m, and that's followed by a Morse code net on 3.543 MHz at 8:30 p.m. Shefford and District Amateur Radio Society will meet on air tomorrow, Monday at 7 p.m. on 1985 kHz, as well as on Wednesday at 8 p.m. through Golf Bravo 3 Papa India. Everyone's welcome to take part, and the club's meeting hall is being used as a polling station this week, and after that there will be renovation work ongoing for the next few weeks, so there won't be any club meetings until the end of July. Keep up to date with the club's activities through their website, which is Sierra Alpha Delta Alpha Romeo Sierra.co.uk. On Wednesday, the Southdown Amateur Radio Society will have a cafe meeting at 12:15 p.m, and this will be followed by a net on the Golf Bravo 3 Zulu X-ray repeater from 2 p.m. Then on Friday the Society will meet at the Old Town Community Centre in Eastbourne, and that starts at 8 p.m. Stevenage and District Amateur Radio Society meet every Tuesday evening from 7:30 p.m. at the Stevenage Resource Centre. That's on Chells Way in Stevenage, and the postcode is Sierra Golf 20 Lima Tango. They have free tea, coffee and biscuits for everyone attending, and they also have a club net which is usually organised for each Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. That's on 145.450 MHz. They have another net on Thursday evenings on the 80 metre band around 3.727 MHz, and that's using the club call sign Golf 3 Sierra Alpha Delta. And you can find more information on the club's website at Sierra Alpha Delta Alpha Romeo Sierra.com. On Sundays, Surrey Radio Contact Club have their net on 1.905 MHz at 9:30 a.m. Then on Monday they have a net on 3.710 MHz lower sideband from 9 a.m. and on Tuesday they have a net on 51.550 MHz at 8 p.m. Wednesday's net is on 28.078 MHz JS8 starting at 10 a.m. Then on Thursday the net is on 70.300 MHz from 8 p.m. Then on Friday there's a D-Star net which is on 144.6125 MHz from 7:30 p.m. and an FM net on 145.350 MHz from 8 p.m. On Sundays, West Kent Amateur Radio Society have their net on 28.730 MHz from 11 a.m. and on Mondays they meet on 145.375 MHz at 8 p.m. Then on Wednesday they meet on 51.510 MHz FM before choosing a new frequency to move to. Well, that ends this week's GB2RS news broadcast, which is brought to you by Graham, Golf 4 Juliet, Bravo Delta in Meppershall, Bedfordshire. The news was compiled by the Radio Society of Great Britain, who represent amateur radio and radio amateurs in the United Kingdom and abroad. If you have a news item to share, please email it to us as far in advance as possible so we can include it for you free of charge in the GB2RS news broadcast, Radcom magazine and the RSGB website. Send it to the editorial team, whose email address is radcom@rsgb.org, and the deadline is the Thursday prior to the Sunday broadcast. The RSGB will The RSGB will retain the copyright over all material transmitted. You can find information about amateur radio on our website, which is rsgb.org, and you can also download the full schedule of GB2RS broadcasts from rsgb.org/GB2RS schedule. This transmission is being sent remotely, and unfortunately I won't be able to answer calls today as I'm away at work, but I will be back in person next week, so I hope to speak to you then. So we wish you 7-3 from the GB2RS news team, hoping that you have a lovely Sunday and a great week ahead. This is Golf 4 Juliet Bravo Delta, now closing down. 7-3 everyone, bye bye.